What's going on, guys? It's the Bigs Podcast, episode number 104, and continuing our positional rankings, we are going to jump behind the plate and do catcher this evening. With me, as always, Jason Ashby. Jason, how you doing this evening, my friend?
I am fantastic, Joe. Happy to be here. Happy to be talking about catchers today. Um, what another just kind of weird position. It's very top heavy to me. There's three or four, maybe five that I would trust, and everybody else is kind of a question mark to me. So we'll see how this ranking goes.
I've got 12 that I trust as my starting catchers, so it's not as barren as it used to be, where it was Real Muto and Gary Sanchez, and that's about it. Right? That was the landscape just a couple of years ago. I think it has fleshed out nicely. You have a nice middle tier, and I'd say about 7 or 8 guys in the middle tier that you can feel comfortable with, and there are even some nice back end sleepers that you can get your hands on if you decide to go the route of avoiding catcher for many rounds.
And I think, yeah, well, and I think it will be interesting again. I always find it interesting to see how catchers fall in the bigs because we've seen where you can go 6 rounds without seeing a catcher go off the board.
Mm-hmm.
Or we've seen, Rimuto go in the second or third round, I think, as early as I remember. So I'm curious to see how this goes this year.
Yeah, let's kick this thing right off. Who is your number one catcher this year?
Not the rapper, not the reliever, but the catcher, Will Smith.
Ooh, that is an interesting number one. Tell me about Will Smith.
He is consistent. He now has Shohei Ohtani in that lineup. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. Yes, there is a guy who is my number two who probably is number one, but looking at the lineup and the numbers and the track record, as long as he's healthy, give me Will Smith.
19 homers, 76 RBIs last year, a 16.1% strikeout rate. He had a very honest 261 with an expected batting average of 261. It was as honest as you could possibly get. 359 on base, good for a 797 OPS. I have him at 3, actually.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. My number one is Adley Rutschman. Played 588 at bats last year, more than anybody at the position. 84 runs scored, 31 doubles, 20 homers, 80 RBIs, 92 walks, a 277 batting average, good for a 374 on base percentage. And he's what, like 25? All day. All day. This Orioles team is getting better by the minute. Thank you, Corbin Burns, for landing in Camden. Yeah, I'm down with Adley Rutschman as number one this year.
Yeah. I have Rutschman as two. He's right there for me. But I'm looking at the projected lineup for the Dodgers, and Will Smith is hitting cleanup behind Betts, Freeman, and Shohei.
Yeah, it's sick.
There are not many other sexier positions to be batting in baseball.
I agree. I have him at 3, and it was razor thin between him and Real Muto. I have it 2. The hair split for me here was 16 steals out of Real Muto. Sure. And he's still the only guy that's going to give you any kind of production there. And I think that deserves to at least be rewarded. 25% strikeout rate isn't great. 252 batting average, coming down from what his career norms are. The on-base percentage was not great with a 310. Maybe it's just a down year and we see him return to norm, but 20 homers, 80 RBIs, that could be what you expect from him. He had 63 last year. I'm going to split the hair with the stolen bases, but I could listen to the argument all day that Will Smith's in the best position in baseball right now in the lineup.
Yeah.
So who do you have at 3? Is it Real Muto?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're the same 3. I don't think there's really much of a question that those are the top three catchers in baseball. It's just a matter of which order you prefer them in. I think Real Muto, he's 33. I think we may be starting to see the decline, so I don't know if the speed is really going to hold up. So I'm not really banking on it. So I put him 3, but he could easily be number 1.
Now, does this break the tier for you, or is there anybody else left in this top tier of catchers?
I think this is the tier for me.
Okay.
Because these are the 3 to me the safest options at the position.
I have one more here in the top tier.
Okay.
My number 4 is William Contreras.
He is my number 4 as well.
Okay. So
I go ahead.
It's a 289 batting average, but it was a 253 expected batting average, so that gives me a little pause. But barrel percentage of 9.4, hard hit percentage 48.7. That was best at the position by far. He's hitting the ball a ton. Still did give you 6 steals for whatever that's worth, but 63 walks, good for a 367 on base percentage. That was better than Will Smith, almost, and it was almost as good as Adley Rutschman. 17 homers, 78 RBIs, 78 RBIs, more than Will Smith, more than Real Muto, 38 doubles. He is the middle of that lineup. Yelich is going to hit at the top of it, but this is the dude that's got to be driving these guys in for Milwaukee. I'm not thrilled with what Milwaukee has done this offseason, and I don't necessarily think their lineup has improved very much, but he's still going to be a very big part of it.
Yeah. For me, it's just I want to see it one more time. Like I have a number 4, so I'm not discounting him much. 97 games in 2022. He did hit 20 home runs, so that there is something there. But I just want to make sure that we're not kind of pigeonholing ourselves into a bust candidate here for a guy who we haven't really seen do it for a long stretch.
Okay, fair enough. We both have the same number 4, but looking at him differently.
Yeah.
So then who is your number 5?
An old friend of mine and a brother of our number 4 is Wilson.
Oh.
Yeah, Wilson Contreras. Look, new year, new team in St. Louis. He wasn't great. 264 average with 20 homers, 67 RBIs. Not terrible. He can still hit, as far as I'm concerned. That's he's 20 home runs each of the last 3 seasons is fine for a catcher. So he's only 32. As long as he can play, as long as he can stay healthy, I think there's still something there from him.
I've got him at 7. I've got 2 more ahead of him.
Okay.
But he's right there in this next tier that I feel safe with any one of these guys as my starting catcher.
Sure.
From 5 through 12, I feel really good about it.
Okay.
My number 5 is Sal Perez, and the strikeouts are getting worse. The walks are still not there. The batting average is what it is, but he's got power and he plays every day.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, is that he plays every day, and that deserves to be rewarded for a guy that you can plug in at catcher. 538 at bats last year, only 59 runs, 21 doubles, 23 homers, and 80 RBIs. It's a productive season behind the plate. I think other pieces around him need to take a step forward. He needs to DH more often, and we'll be able to see a resurgence. But I love Sal Perez this year, and I think we're going to get a discount because of it.
Look, it's funny. I had Contreras at 5, and you had Contreras at 7. You have Perez at 5, and I have Perez at 7.
Oh, that's hilarious. So who's your number 6?
My number 6 is Sean Murphy.
Yeah, we got that one too.
And I tell you what, I don't like him, but the numbers say a lot. Again, 21 homers, 68 RBIs in 108 games last year. I think he was splitting a little too much time with d'Arnaud, but I think that ends this year. I think he becomes like the true number 1 behind the plate. So I can see him even getting a little bit better than he did last year.
And he crushes the ball. 16.1% barrel rate, 45.5% hard hit rate. Like, he's not crushing the ball like, say, William Contreras is, but it's better than Will Smith. In only 378 games, of the 3 guys we've just talked about, Perez, Murphy, and Wilson Contreras, he's played the fewest games. He scored the most runs. He hit the second most home runs, second most RBIs, second most walks, fewest strikeouts. Now, that's to be expected. He played the fewest number of games. He also had the lowest batting average. However, his expected batting average is 21 points higher. I think you could see him improve next year. 365 on base percentage, better than both of the guys we're talking about, and an 843 OPS is better than the guys we talked about. Like, this dude, I think in this lineup, he's going to hit, what, 6th? Okay, sure. Give me this guy to start on my team too.
Yeah, and again, I think he's going to play. The 108 games last year wasn't very much, but I think as long as he's healthy, there's no reason for the Braves to be starting d'Arnaud over him.
Not at all. Not anymore. And I have d'Arnaud at 20 just because of that, and I could really feel like he could fall off completely.
Yeah, he's even further for me.
All right, so if I have Contreras at 7 and you have Perez at 7, who do you have at 8?
Captain Kirk, Alejandro Kirk.
Oh,
Um,
he's a bit lower for me.
okay, yeah, and I can understand it. The power hasn't come up that I really thought we were going to see more power from him, but he is only
Hmm.
25. He's only 25 years old.
Hmm.
So I'm willing to give him the chance to, again, take the starting gig from Danny Jansen and run with it and give me 20 bombs. Give me 20, 25 bombs and I'll be thrilled with that. He doesn't strike out. 10.7% strikeout rate each of the last 2 seasons.
Hmm.
Hits the ball recently decently hard. Um, I I like him. Again, in this Blue Jays lineup, as long as he can play, I think there's going to be something good there.
My number 8 is Cal Raleigh, who hit 30 homers and drove in 75 last year. He hit 232, honestly, with an expected batting average of 232, 306 on base, a 762 OPS. But it's really the power there. And again, I don't like what Seattle's done in the offseason. I don't like the upgrades they've made, but he and Mitch Garver, who I have at 9, are apparently going to play on the same team now. So I have to have them somewhere close to each other.
It's funny because I have Raleigh and Garver back to back as well. Just a little bit
So,
further down.
okay, so you've got Kirk at 8. Who do you have at 9?
Okay, I'm taking a shot here at Yanier Diaz
Okay,
from the
he's not that
Houston
far,
Astros.
much further down for me.
Yeah. Again, 104 game sample, so not a whole lot to go off of, but 23 homers, 60 RBIs, 282 batting average. Like, okay, and again, he's 25, so like a full season out of him, like we could see a 30 homer guy.
Like I said, I have Garver at 9, but I could definitely see him falling down if injuries continue to plague him. He only had 296 bats this year. Um, Yainer Diaz is a little bit lower for me. I've got him behind a couple of other young catchers that I really like. Number 10. Who do you have at 10?
So I'm grouping probably the same group of young catchers you're talking about. I have Francisco Alvarez here.
I have him at 11. I have one guy ahead of him in this group, but yeah,
Okay.
I like Alvarez. Tell me about him.
Yeah, yeah. Again, he's officially the catcher for the Mets. There's no more Tomas Nido, Narvaez, who gives a shit. It's Francisco Alvarez, 22 years old. He burst onto the scene with 25 homers in 123 games last year. Obviously, the 209 and the 284 averaging on base, not good, but he was kind of. I feel like he was also kind of pressed onto the scene, and from a catcher standpoint, the pitchers love him. So he's not going anywhere. He's only going to get better. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets. 45.1% hard hit rate. That is in line with somebody like Sean Murphy and higher than Will Smith and Real Muto and Rutschman before him. Like I said, I have him at 11 only because I don't like the batting average and on base percentage. I think I need to see some plate discipline show up because 26% strikeout rate isn't great. In fact, it's the highest amongst these guys we've talked about, except for Cal Raleigh. But Cal Raleigh's hitting 30 bombs. So
Right.
my number 10 is Jonah Heim.
Okay.
95 RBIs and 18 home runs with a 258 batting average and a 317 on base percentage. It's just slightly better than what we've seen out of the guys that are just a bit lower than him. But a World Series winning team, I don't think he's going anywhere. In 457 at bats, struck out 96 times. That's good for a 19.2% rate. I like him just a little bit better, but I have Alvarez at 11. So who's your number 11?
He's a catcher for the team that lost to the Rangers. It's Gabriel Moreno. Um, he again young, 24. So that's my group. It's Diaz, Alvarez, and Moreno. Those three guys are the
Okay.
young backsteps of the future. I have Heim a little bit lower, but because he is 29, so I don't consider him the young
Okay.
the youngster that I consider these three. Moreno only 7 home runs last year, so I'd like to see a little bit more power out of him, but a 284 average and a 339 on base. Struck out only 20% of the time, so not terrible. 20 doubles, 50 RBIs. The Diamondbacks haven't really changed much. They brought in Suarez, so yeah, I like him here.
I think he's going to take a step forward this year. I just have to see it to believe it, much like you need to see some things to believe it.
Sure.
He only had 7 homers and 341 at bats, struck out 20% of the time, like you said. His batting average is 284, but a 263 expected batting average. That's probably where I see him more hitting when all is said and done. I have him at 16, but again, we're not talking too far apart here. My 12 is Yainer Diaz. I think he's going to just absolutely run in the middle of this lineup with all of the great pieces that Houston has, and they kicked off Martin Maldonado to let this kid now be their starting catcher. So
Yeah.
he's certainly going to dominate, and I could see him being top 5 next year.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
To me, like, and Alvarez too. Like, if Alvarez, look, the batting average was woeful. Like Raleigh. You say Raleigh hit 30 home runs. Alvarez hit 25. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not a far cry. So give me a full season of Alvarez, and that's a 30 homer guy too. Even if he's hitting, at the Mendoza line.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's where I cut it off. Like, I feel pretty good about having one of these 12 guys as my starting catcher. Beyond that, it's a bunch of question marks for me. And the first one I have here, who do you have at 13?
My 12 was Cal Raleigh.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. 13 is where I have Mitch Garver. So I like you, I have Garver and Raleigh back to back.
Just a little bit lower.
Yeah, same reasoning.
This is where I have Keibert Ruiz at 13.
Okay.
Yeah. 260 batting average, 272 expected. So he can actually improve that a little bit. A 308 on base, not great, but only a 10% strikeout rate with 18 homers, 67 RBIs, 24 doubles. It's a bad lineup, but it's getting better. CJ Abrams is a real thing. This might be a real guy. I'm willing to, he's right there on the cusp of where I would feel comfortable with him as my starting catcher if only he were on a little bit of a better team.
Sure. I have a little further down, but not too far. He's
okay.
for me, so
Okay.
not too far.
Okay.
14 for me was Heim.
Okay.
Yeah. He's 29. He had a great 2023. I just, I kind of want to see it again. His average went up and his on base went up. Everything went up. Let's see if he can keep going up to the next level as he gets into his 30s.
My number 14 is a guy you had last year that you were pegging as like a breakout star or a sleeper at this position. And he ended up like ripping his shoulder apart. And it was really kind of disappointing. It's Logan O'Hoppe.
Yeah.
He crushed the ball when he was playing.
I don't want to say he ruined my season, but I think he ruined my season. like that, because like I was doing well the first part of the season, and then he got hurt, and then
everything fell
apart. I sucked. We all sucked.
Yeah. He had 236, but his expected batting average was 260, so you could see that improve. The on-base percentage wasn't great, although it's a 182 at-bat sample size, so what are we talking about?
Right.
However, during that 182 at-bats, 15.6% barrel rate, 90.5 miles per hour average exit velocity, which is better than just about everybody we've talked about, except Murphy, Contreras, and Contreras. He had 14 home runs in 182 at bats. Like, extrapolate that out. That's 30 homer upside. I don't necessarily think he'll get there, but
the only thing that gives me pause, and I have him a little bit further down, I have him also just below Ruiz, is it was a shoulder injury.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's going to zap any power. I don't know how that's going to look. So I want to see how he is coming out of spring training.
He did come back at the end of the year, right? Like, he had a couple of games
I don't
at the
think
end
it was
of the season.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was like the last week or something. It wasn't very
It's
long.
something, right? It's enough that, like, okay, he was healthy enough to play at the end of the year. Give him the whole off season to continue the rehab process. I'm kind of full bore with this dude. I've got him at 14. At 15, I have Alejandro Kirk, and at 16, I have Gabriel Moreno. So who do you have at 15?
15, I have Tyler Stevenson here. I'm taking a leap of faith.
One more time.
One more time. Because he does play in the Great American Small Park, and the Reds have gotten better. They're gelling. They're young. They're fun. They're up and coming. I can see he hit 13 home runs last year, which I think we were expecting better. So I'd like to see him get 20 this year. If not, I'm probably out on him. But I'm giving him 15 is kind of like in the middle of my rankings here. I don't love him, but I like him enough that I would at least consider him.
I think I'm out on that guy now. I really do. The team is getting younger and he's not getting better. So it's only a matter of time before they're like, we could probably find another guy. Who do you have at 16?
16. Okay, I have MJ Melendez here.
Okay, I'm at 17.
Okay, 25 years old. He's still super young. It hits the ball really, really hard. 93.2 average exit velocity last year with 49.6 hard hit percent. He has right field, left field eligibility as well. He's going to lose catcher after this year. He's done catching most likely. So this is the last year he's going to be a catcher. But 16 home runs last year in 148 games. Like the average and the on base are terrible. The OPS plus is terrible. But I think there's enough here that you could say he could make some strides this year.
Given the extra position eligibility, I do like him here. I have him at 17. You have him at 16. He had 533 at bats last year, which is unusual for a catcher to have that many at bats. For example, Kybert Ruiz had 523, but Alejandro Kirk had 372. So it really just depends on the situation. I like Melendez to be playing every day. I like the doubles total of 29. Like getting to 30 doubles is really nice. Again, young Royals team that needs to take a step forward. This is another guy that does need to do that. He hit a very honest 235, which is not great, with a 316 on base and a 28.2% strikeout rate.
Yeah.
It's not great, but you can see the formula for how this could actually become a pretty good player. He also had 6 steals, which isn't nothing.
Right. And I think now if he's, the whole point of him not catching is so he doesn't have to focus on catching. He can just focus on hitting. Maybe there's something to that, so maybe we see him make some strides all across the board offensively.
Who do you have at 17?
17, I have Ruiz.
Okay.
Same thing you said. I like him. 18 home runs last year. I'm not as much of in love with the Nationals lineup as you might be. But I think again, he's 25, young. I think he's just on the cusp of really breaking out. So yeah, I like him.
Okay. My number 18 is Rockies Elias Diaz, the All-Star MVP. 14 homers, 72 RBIs last year, 22.5% strikeout rate across 486 at bats. Hit 267, which was really nice, but a 316 on base. He doesn't take a walk to save his life.
No.
Who's your number 18?
18, I have Ohapi.
Okay.
I could see myself moving him up. Again, I just want to make sure that shoulder injury isn't going to derail anything.
Okay. And number 19?
19, I have Bo Naylor here.
Okay. Got him a little bit lower.
Yeah. Again, he's only 24. And I think, he's finally, 67 games last year. I think he's going to be the number 1 catcher, obviously. So we're going to see more of a playing time from him. And again, like you said in other shows, somebody's got to hit in this lineup. Somebody else other than Jose Ramirez has to hit in this lineup. Maybe it's this kid. 339 on base on 124 OPS plus. Doesn't hit the ball very hard, but it takes a walk. 13% walk rate. There's worse options to me.
Yeah, maybe not my number 19 is worth. It's Shea Langoliers of the fucking Oakland A's, because that team is awful. He hit 205 last year and a 268 on base percentage, but somehow clubbed 22 home runs on that terrible fucking team. I don't know. He struck out almost 30% of the time. He didn't walk very much, but I guess he deserves to go here because he cleared 20 homers in a really big ballpark. So it's impressive that he did that.
Yeah.
Won't be long before they trade him back to the Braves, I guess.
Or the Dodgers.
Or the Dodgers.
Yeah. My number, where are we on? 20?
20.
20. You know what? I have Ryan Jeffers here. From the Minnesota.
Oh, I don't even have that guy ranked.
Yeah. I originally I didn't. I liked the numbers. 14 homers in 96 games last year. 276 average with a 369 on base, a 134 OPS plus. Walked 10% of the time. There's something here. If they can finally just let him be the catcher and fuck Christian Vasquez, then like
Yeah.
I think we could see something here. He's 27, so he's right at his prime. Um, Give him 130 games, and let's see what this kid can do.
And Christian Vasquez wasn't good. He's outside my top 25.
Oh, I
Only
don't have
six
him ranked.
homers last year. He
Yeah,
was terrible. Yeah, he was
yeah.
terrible. He was terrible. My number 20 is Darno. We talked about him when we talked about Murphy. I think the platoon there is starting to skew much more toward Murphy, and I think we'll see Darno start to take a step back. Only 267 at bats last year, 11 homers, 13 doubles, a 225 batting average, 288 on base. Yuck.
Yeah, he's at the bottom. He's at my 25. He's right at the bottom of my rankings.
I mean, so full disclosure, I had 21 guys ranked before we even like came together on this show, and then I added the other three at the end, or three or four at the end. Like, okay, this guy and whatever. So who do you have at 21?
21. I have Elias Diaz.
Okay,
Yeah, like he could be better. I think at 33 though, I think we're kind of seeing the best we're going to get from him.
sure. I have Danny Jansen here, who is arguably the better hitter out of the two catchers in Toronto. He had 17 homers and 15 doubles in 268 at bats. The batting average isn't as good as Kirk. The on base percentage isn't as good as Kirk, but the OPS is far superior, like almost 100 points better. He crushes the ball, hits it really hard, just can't seem to like do much else than hit home runs.
And he can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
He's over the last 3 seasons, he's averaged 76 games.
It's not great. It's not great. But if you could pair the two, Kirk and Jansen, together on your team and just play whoever's playing that day, I think you'd be all right.
You're in a good position. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. 22, I have Tyler Stevenson. I'm thinking that guy's my bust this year. Who do you have at 22?
I have Langeliers.
Okay.
Just because his first name is Shea, and it'll always be Shea to me.
Fair enough. 23, who do you have?
I have Danny Jansen.
I have Kyle Higashioka here.
Ooh.
He's going to start for San Diego. He hit 236 last year. It was a very honest 236 for the terrible 274 on base, but 10 homers. It's just a playing time, man. That's all it is. Like, who's going to play most of the time? Yeah, Kyle Higashioka will probably play quite a bit.
They like this Campusano kid.
Okay, then him at 23. Whoever the starting fucking catcher for San Diego is.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, look, maybe change the scenery to go for Higashioka. No thanks.
Fair enough. 24, I have Bo Naylor. Who you have there?
Just because I'm thinking maybe he'll end up in Colorado. I don't know. I have Yasmani Grandal. I'm not going anywhere near him, but just to have somebody at 24 is something.
Yeah, I got 4 names underneath my rankings that I'm not touching: Grandal, Maldonado, Vasquez, and right now Christian Bethancourt. Those 4 are pretty ugly. And Maldonado hit 15 homers last year, but no, I'm not doing that.
No.
So that means my number 25 is somehow Gary fucking Sanchez. No, I don't want this guy either, but he's the best of that group.
Yeah, I could put him in instead of Grandal. I don't know. They're the same player to me.
Yeah, no, they are. They're a power hitting catcher who doesn't play very much. Sanchez had 240 at bats last year, 9 doubles, 19 homers, a 217 average, though a 230 expected batting average. So it can come up, and he does crush the ball, but he strikes out 25% of the time. Gross. All right, let's get over to sleepers, breakouts, and busts, my friend. Who do you got as a sleeper?
So a sleeper is somebody who we haven't talked about. The catcher of the Giants, Patrick Bailey.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be the guy there in San Francisco this year, and he had some promising numbers. I don't even have them pulled up, but he had some promising numbers last year. Maybe he's something. I mean, why not in San Francisco? He's not Buster Posey, but maybe he's better than Joey Bart.
I mean, almost anything is better than Joey Bart at this point. That's a busted prospect. My sleeper's going to be Logan O'Hoppe, man. I think that somebody's got to be able to do something in LA, and somebody's going to drive in runs. And this kid showed that he can play at the major leagues. The question is whether or not he can stay healthy. So let's hope that he can, and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Who's your breakout?
Gotta go with Alvarez.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Give me a full season of Alvarez, and give me 30 homers. again, even if it's a 230 average, that's an improvement. Like,
Mhm.
let's break out.
Yeah, let's just try to cut down on the strikeouts a little bit and continue to crush the ball, and it will come. It will
Yep.
come.
Yep.
I guess I have him as my breakout as well. If not him, then I guess it's Yainer or Diaz, but one of
Yeah.
those two guys is going
Yeah.
to hit 30 bombs this year. It just seems to feel that way. Who's your bust?
Sean Murphy.
Hmm.
Um, like I he's gonna take the reins in Atlanta. I don't know, at 30 years old, I he's good. I just don't think he's gonna be great. I have him at 6. I can see him falling to like behind the Diaz, Alvarez, Moreno group and falling more
Mhm.
into the Raleigh, Garver, Stevenson group for me. Um, so I can see it being not as good as we have him ranked.
I have Sal Perez here, and I'm going to keep taking Sal Perez until it happens because the man is old and he shouldn't be catching anymore. And yeah, they're DHing him, playing him at first enough times to keep his knees healthy, but he does not fucking walk ever. And he's starting to strike out more and more every single year. It's getting
Yeah.
a little bit concerning. Yeah, the power's there and the counting stats are going to be there. The team has to take a step forward for him to continue to be relevant. I still have him at 5, but I don't like it. He's of the top 12 guys, he's probably the guy I would trust the least, but I'm still going to draft him ahead of a couple of guys because the track record says so.
I think he was my bust going into last year, and he hit 23 home runs. So what do I know?
Yeah, but yeah, and he hit 255. Like I'm expecting a season where we see 15 homers, a 210 batting average,
Right.
260 on base percentage. Like some really ugly shit's going to happen with this guy eventually. I just don't know if it's this year or in a year to come.
Yeah.
Who's your comeback? Do we even have one here?
You know what? I'm giving it to Alejandro Kirk.
Okay.
Because while it wasn't a down year, it wasn't a terrible year, I want to see more power from him. So he hit 14 home runs in 2022, 8 home runs last year. So bounce back and give me 20.
Okay. Um, I guess I'll take somebody like I mean Kirk makes sense. Oh, Hoppy also makes sense here.
Yeah.
Those guys battled injury last year. I guess I'll say Oh Hoppy as well for that, just to make things easier. Is there anybody outside the top 25 that you want to talk about?
I don't have anybody out.
I didn't
I'm not
think
even
so.
looking at
Didn't
anybody
think
or
so.
any other names right now.
Yeah, I didn't think so. It's an ugly position, but I'm glad we got it out of the way. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, yeah. Let's move on, shall we?
We're gonna move on, guys. Thank you so much for being here with us, and until next time, it's been real, it's been fun, and it's always real fun in the bigs. We'll see you next time.